record this as well. Right, okay. So hello everybody to Lockdown Still Life's Show and Tell Artist Networks. Today we're a smaller group because it's Julia's birthday and I'm going to record a birthday message for you here for all eternity. Happy, happy birthday from all of us. Actually, maybe we just go around the table. So happy birthday. Michelle, do you want to say something?
I'm going to say that I've still got this notice on my screen saying this meeting is being recorded and it refuses to go away. So you look as if you're wearing a yashmak that goes up to your forehead. I can't see anything beyond that at all. It's stupid. It just isn't leaving. I don't know why.
Well, let's hope you can get...
No, I shall have to keep peeping round. But yes, I hope Julia is having a wonderful birthday. It sounds great. I mean, I'm quite jealous some of the places they've been to and what they've seen.
Okay, Sarah.
Whoop, whoop.
Bye.
Jill.
Happy birthday, Julia. I'm enjoying your holiday more than you are, I think. I love seeing like all the places you've been to. It's so exciting, and I can imagine you and Roger exploring. So have a wonderful time, and it'll be nice to see you when you get back and hear about your adventures in the southeast.
David?
Yes, happy birthday, Julia, and take it easy with the booze tonight.
That was a mean thing to say.
Brilliant. And I think I agree with Jill. I think we should give Julia a special session on kind of report back on, you know, all the things that she's seen, and especially the Vega exhibition would be amazing. Great. Okay, so today, as I have promised, I wanted to talk about artist networks as well, because basically to me, I don't know, I have a very, very romanticized idea of artist networks. And I think I wanted to use this as a chance for me to actually reflect on that. Because when we first came up with the idea, I immediately go into these, romantic ideals. And it was great to have all of you talk about artist networks and kind of come at it from different angles, but mostly from a very, kind of what they are. So what I want to do in this session, I want to kind of just go through a few that have really inspired me and who they are, and then kind of almost maybe summarize what it is at the heart of these networks that I feel is maybe what they all set out to achieve at some point. Kind of, we all know they're not as ideal as they appear or as they've kind of been talked about in literature or in movies, and they are being romanticized. But I always think there might be something in that, that we can kind of extract and learn from and look at and move on with it. So yes, I have a very romanticized idea of artist collectives. I have no idea where this idea comes from, as I grew up as far away from any idealized version of creative utopia as imaginable. But hence, maybe herein lies the answer. To me, artist collectives represent the ultimate expression of human ideals, the creative freedom to think and express what our deepest desires and feelings are in a safe and welcoming environment, where one is understood, accepted, and above all, inspired and elevated to be the best version of oneself. I believe that true creativity and insight into life, who we are, how we live, is in conversation and connection with others. To me, in the idealized version, the artist collective has this aim, to help each other and oneself to access and find a way to express this, not just in a manufactured way, but through the simple fact of existing. So I'm fully aware that this is not what it's like in reality. So I want to have a closer look and see, what they really are, but also what we can take away from the ideal version and try and embed some of the principles, thoughts, and ideas in how we live every day, but also how we connect with other artists and collectives. So let's look what Wiki says about artist collectives. Artist collectives have occurred throughout history, often gathered around central resources. For instance, the ancient sculpture workshops at the marble quarries in Milos in Greece and Carrara in Italy. Collectives featured during both the Russian Revolution, when they were set up by the state in all major communities, and the French Revolution, when the Louvre in Paris was occupied as an artist collective. There was a list below of collectives, but I only knew 2 of them, and none of them were what inspired or drew me in. So I kept looking, what is this artist network I'm looking for? So a couple that I feel really drawn to is, of course, kind of Bauhaus. I'm not sure whether it's the architecture, the photographs, or the stories that draw me to this period, to this school, to this collective, breaking away from existing cultural norms and attempting to create something brand new. So the Staatliche Bauhaus, commonly known as the Bauhaus, was a German art school operational from 1919 to 1933 that combined arts, crafts, and the fine arts. The school became famous for its approach to design, which attempted to unify the principles of mass production with individual artistic vision and strove to combine aesthetics with everyday function. The Bauhaus was founded by architect Walter Gropius in Weimar. He was grounded in the idea of creating a Gesamtkunstwerk in which all the arts would eventually be brought together. The Bauhaus style later became one of the most influential currents in modern design, modernist architecture, and art design and architectural education. The Bauhaus movement had a profound influence upon subsequent developments in art, architecture, graphic design, interior design, industrial design, and typography. Staff at the Bauhaus included prominent artists such as Paul Klee, Vasily Kandinsky, and Laszlo Moholy-Nagy at various points. Breaking a mold, being bold, and in the process inspires so much creativity and innovation. The creative atmosphere at the Bauhaus was a magnet for young people from over 29 countries. Some had no money at all, while others brought enough to feed their fellow students. And they had one thing in common: they were now Bauhäusler, and always would be. Then another group that is very inspiring to me, and actually I have got some pictures, but I think if I put the pictures on, I don't think I can. Let me just do something awkward a bit, but if I get up my text on my phone, then I probably can just show you some pictures, just so it's not so boring and you don't have to just look at me the whole time, which is, yeah, I don't want you to have to do that. Just a moment, sorry. It's probably won't be long. Okay, right. Okay, so, okay, Bauhaus, here we are. So this is one of the Bauhaus parties. Then next, another one that's really inspiring to me, and probably to all of you've all heard about it, the Bloomsbury Group, or Bloomsbury Set, which was a group of a group of associated English writers, intellectuals, philosophers, and artists in the first half of the 20th century, including Virginia Woolf, John Maynard Keynes, Ian Foster, and Lytton Strachey. This loose collective of friends and relatives was closely associated with the University of Cambridge for the men and King's College London for the women. And they lived, worked, or studied together near Bloomsbury, London. According to Ian Usby, although its members denied being a group in any formal sense, they were united by an abiding belief in the importance of the arts. Their work and outlook deeply influenced literature, aesthetics, criticism, and economics, as well as modern attitudes towards feminism, pacifism, and sexuality. A well-known quote attributed to Dorothy Parker is, "They lived in squares, painted in circles, and loved in triangles." Then another one, the Vienna Secession is an art movement closely related to Art Nouveau that was formed in 1897 by a group of Austrian painters, graphic artists, sculptors and architects, including Joseph Hoffmann, Koloman Moser, Otto Wagner and Gustav Klimt. They resigned from the Association of Austrian Artists in protest against its support for more traditional artistic styles. Their most influential architectural work was the Secession Building, this one here, designed by Joseph Maria Albrecht as a venue for expositions of the group. Their official magazine was called Ver Sacrum, Sacred Spring in Latin, which published highly stylized and influential works of graphic art. In 1905, the group itself split when some of the most prominent members, including Klimt, Wagner and Hoffmann, resigned in a dispute over priorities. But it continued to function and still functions today. From its headquarters in the Secession Building. In its current form, the Secession Building exhibition gallery is independently led and managed by artists. And now I'm going to just move to something a bit different, but things like, for example, this one, Laurel Canyon, became a nexus of counterculture, activity and attitudes in the mid-late 1960s and early 1970s, becoming famous as a home to many of LA's rock musicians, such as Cass Elliot of the Mamas and the Papas, Joni Mitchell, Frank Zappa, Jim Morrison, Carole King, The Byrds, Buffalo Springfield, Canned Heat, John Mayall, members of the band The Eagles, the band Love, Neil Young, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, as well as James Taylor, Jackson Browne, Ned Doheny, Bonnie Wright, Linda Ronstadt, Harry Nilsson, and so on. Cass Elliott's home was considered one of Laurel Canyon's biggest party house, with all-night sleepovers, well attended by the hippest musicians and movie stars of the era. Another one, last one, is Villa Diodati, which is a mansion in the village of Cologny, near Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And you might know it because it's notable because Lord Byron rented it and stayed there with John Polidori in the summer of 1816. Mary Shelley and Percy Bysshe Shelley, who had rented a house nearby, were frequent visitors. Because of poor weather, as probably everybody knows this story because it's magical, isn't it? So they all came together in bad weather in 1816 in June, spent 3 days together inside the house and started telling each other scary stories. And hence, a new genre was born and Frankenstein was born in this house under these circumstances. So, okay, just one last one, okay? Now this one is, oh God, I didn't copy the address. It's 27 Rue de Fleury, was the home of the American writer Gertrude Stein and her partner Alice B. Toklas from 1903 to 1938. It's in the 6th arrondissement of Paris on the left bank. It was also the home of Gertrude's brother, Leo Stein, for a time in the early 20th century. It was a renowned Saturday evening gathering place for avant-garde artists and writers. And Saturday evenings had been set aside so that Gertrude Stein wasn't bothered by visitors during the week. But basically, these gatherings in her home brought together confluences of talent and thinking that would help define modernism in literature and art. Dedicated attendees included Pablo Picasso, Georges Braque, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Guillaume Apollinaire, Sinclair Lewis, James Joyce, Ezra Pound, Thornton Wilder, and so on. Henri Matisse, Max Jacob, Henri Rousseau. So this is kind of the last one. Now, having looked at all of these, and I think we all kind of probably can go away and dream what it must have been like kind of being part of one of these or kind of dropping in on one of these evenings with Gertrude Stein and have like Ernest Hemingway in one corner, Matisse and Picasso. And apparently she actually started buying their art before it was, even popular. And then they all started buying art from each other. But also, Laurel Canyon, that kind of aggregation of talent. So what I'm looking at and what I thought actually going through some of these, a lot of the time, it's actually a place, which I found interesting because, we often actually come back to place as something that kind of binds things together. So kind of artist networks and artist collectives, is there always a place that plays a key part that influences that? Obviously, there's always ideals and a shared common ground. But maybe not even, like I think in Gertrude Stein's case, people came together probably with very different outlooks and ideals, but they will have sparked interesting conversations that as it says, might have influenced kind of modernism. Same with what was the other, kind of the Bloomsbury group. And I mean, I did have the Pre-Raphaelites actually as one of my favorite groups in there, but I think we extensively covered that last time. Or, to think of that villa in Italy where those people came together, not necessarily by ideals and community. So kind of, I'd very much like to kind of ask everybody, what do you think is at the heart of these kind of networks, if we really look at the beauty and the inspiration and how they can influence and change kind of each other and the time. And in Bauhaus' case, what fascinates me there is because obviously it had to finish due to severe political pressure and situation, but they just went across the world. The Black Mountain, is it the Black Mountain? I always forget what it's called. Is it Blue Mountain? Black Mountain College, that kind of basically carried on and again influenced the whole other kind of art movement, but with those principles at heart. So I don't know, it's very interesting. And I mean, there's many, many more, isn't it? This is just this really small selection of these very powerful, inspirational kind of coming together of minds. But what draws them together? What enables them? And yeah, so it's a bit rambly, sorry, but how do I stop sharing? Okay.
I think a good party never goes amiss. Sorry.
I think in a lot of cases when you look at them, they're not just say artists. There's a whole group of intellects coming together. So you get artists and writers and musicians and philosophers, and I think it's that. And I do think it's lovely when there is a place, a centre point. I mean, ours is a Zoom meeting. But to a certain degree, even that is working in the same way, because we're all bringing something different to the table. And that sparks ideas which we wouldn't get in any other way, I think.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It is a place, isn't it? A virtual place. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Jill, I think you're on mute.
Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Is that better?
Now I can hear you. We couldn't hear you.
I really like that, because when we've thought in previous weeks about groups, we've thought about them because they've shared a style or a philosophy or a politics. But I like the idea that you've said today, that actually they've shared a space or a place, and those people have come together and made a kind of focal point for, might be 1, 2, through years, or just once or whatever. So I've got like a visual picture of that as a kind of point, and then those people dispersing and then joining with others. So that thing about how ideas spread, that's really powerful, isn't it? The Bauhaus broke up, and some people went to America or fled to America. Some came to Britain. So the groups disperse, but then they join together elsewhere and make another focal point. So yeah, I really love that idea that actually it's a place of coming together rather than a shared style or approach or philosophy, as we've kind of focused on in previous examples. So yeah, I like that idea, a place.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, great. That's good. Well, it'll bode well for our Shirethorn place as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really good place, the Shirethorn. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, you're right in the middle of almost like the epicenter of lots of other artists around you. So we'll pick up on all of the other all the other energy in the building, as well as being our own thing.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And I think people will be organising events of their own and inviting everybody to them. So it'll become a real collaborative thing, I imagine. So you can close the door and work on your own projects, but then when you choose to, you can open the door and get involved in everybody's projects. That's how it feels. So
I think the good thing about that will be that we can bring actual work or like that in an actual that will sort of glue us together even. It's very unnerving to see all the people who are talking with this notice glued across their face.
Right.
I don't know how to get rid of it. Sorry about that. That was just an aside.
No, that's fine. I think you were breaking up for me a little bit. I don't know whether anybody else could hear you properly, but
I think the biggest problem is that I'm changing from pure from KCOM broadband to pure broadband, and I don't know how to put the gear together. So I'm having to do it through my iPhone. So it is erratic. It's warned me that it's erratic, but maybe that's not a bad thing.
no, that's fine. Great. Okay.
I really liked that, Marianne. I liked seeing all of their houses and all the different buildings and all of the different fancy I've always liked that. I mean, everybody likes that Bauhaus fancy dress picture, don't they? Because it's like, you know, extended into your personal life, your architectural interest.
Yeah.
It's funny. There was we went to see a performance where it was something about everybody being architects, and it used that picture in it. That was the first time I'd seen it. But yeah. It kind of reminds me, a lot of them seem quite, I know it seems daft, but I think a lot of the things that you showed, it seems like a certain era of life as well. They seem all quite young and sort of career meets social life thing going on that's maybe like if they're traveling all over the place and they're coming together for these things, it's like it's partly for a career and partly for socializing. But yeah, our group's nice because it's very sensible.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not expecting you all to kind of start taking drugs and running all night.
I was just going to say that it reminded me of a book I once read. I don't know if you've ever come across it. It's by that American writer Tom Wolfe. He wrote a book called Bauhaus to Our House. It was a very amusing book because it went on about the all-pervasive kind of influence of Bauhaus on modern culture, right up to the present day, architecture, furniture, and it was sort of like a very tongue-in-cheek, satirical take on the whole thing. I mean, not to say that it diminished my love of the Bauhaus, but it was a very different kind of take on the whole thing, kind of postmodernist kind of attack on the prevailing ideology.
I know. I mean, it is mad though, isn't it? If you look at kind of the break from kind of what was before and then to modernism, and that hasn't changed. Kind of there hasn't been that much more. If you look at the Frank Lloyd Wright house, that still looks absolutely contemporary. Whereas if you look at kind of a Georgian building or like an Edwardian building, which kind of was almost around the same time or just before, it is quite mad. I know people often say it is kind of advances in technology, isn't it, that enabled that, or those tubular chairs, and I mean being able to have big glass fronts, they couldn't do it. But yeah, it is just kind of astounding, isn't it, how those breaks in progress and kind of in design happen.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, where the transition happened, where people go from looking sort of to quality materials and workmanship and kind of almost sort of godly inspiration to futurism and kind of new materials and the excitement about the future and what can happen, and where there's less of a reverence to it. It's more just an excitement about the future and almost space and kind of exploration, really.
Yeah.
And isn't it we talked, I forget who was talking about the shift in pre-modernism and modernism in painting, and obviously it's related in design, but it is very different, isn't it? The issues, well, they feel different now I'm thinking about them. And I'm also, I do know, like, but I'm also going to reflect on why was it such a threat to the growing Nazi party? Like, why was it? I know some of those answers, but like, why was it shut down twice, wasn't it, or had to move twice in its history? Like, what was so threatening?
I mean, what I read is they thought he was harboring kind of communist kind of ideals and things like that. So the first time around as well, I think it was the leadership kind of that didn't bow to some of the demands. I mean, I think there was like one way or no way, isn't it? And I can imagine that would not sit very well with any kind of freedom of expression of the artistic ideal. I don't know. And I mean, you know, to kind of, they wouldn't have been allowed to have any Jews probably on the program or teach on the program. So I don't know. I don't think there was probably any choice, really.
But I think I heard a program on television once, and they were talking about the fact that the Nazis felt that Germany had been great during the time, you know, many years before, which is why they turned to Gothic script again, and the idea of forests and all that seems to them to be better than anything that came. Who they were, it gave them a history, whereas this new stuff, they wouldn't. It would be like a slippery floor to them. They wouldn't know how to. I mean, it was, you know, allowing lots of different voices to say things. I mean, if you get a group like the Nazis, you've got to follow the party line. The big communist thing, you had to follow the party line. And the very fact of the Bauhaus is that although they came to some beliefs, it was the belief of a lot of people to produce that purity. Or it seems to me so, anyway.
I mean, they didn't like modern art at all, isn't it? They called it entartete Kunst. I don't know what it's called in English.
General.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know, Jill, exactly. I just know that they would have found excuses. And in this article that I read, it was kind of apparently to do with communist, kind of harboring communist tendencies. Sorry, can't hear you. I think it's when your laptop's angled a certain way.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Equally in Russia, constructivism, which is a Russian form of modernism, I guess, that was equally threatening to the Communist Party. I mean, I understand all those things. I'm just reflecting. It's a shock, isn't it, when to think that it's such a threat. Artists and designers, architects are such a threat, and modernism was such a threat politically to different movements. Yeah.
Great thought. There was another one that Dave said to me that was quite interesting. He said it was a lady called, her married name was Mary Elizabeth Merle, and she lived in London, but she's Merle by marriage. Actually, she was Clark originally, but she was a British writer known as a salon hostess in Paris. She was known by her nickname Clarky. She was admired for her independence and conversation. She eventually married the Orientalist Julius von Moll, which was a German name, which my name originally is a German name. She was an ardent Francophile, a feminist, and a close friend of Florence Nightingale. She wrote about her interest in the history of women's rights. But basically, she was the same. She used to host kind of parties for, like, you know, creative people, which is quite nice. I tried to trace her back to see if I was related to her, but she didn't have any children, so it's a husband that I'm probably related to somewhere.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, I like that, isn't it? We should have some of those soirees.
Yeah,
You know, definitely.
well, we probably will, won't we, when we're in the
Yeah,
new gaff?
yeah. That's it. Maybe we just have a nice soiree corner in one of the areas. Yeah, maybe that should be our first act.
Soiree corner of fruit teas.
Yeah.
It'd be good to get a projector in there so that we can have stuff like this could be on a projector, and then there may be like anyone that's in the building that wants to come or something could sit as part of the, you know, occasionally do a special one where it's people are invited as an audience with or something.
Yeah, I mean, they could.
Like with their own.
That's what we need to think about, isn't it? What kind of, do we want to do a blended approach going forward? You know, we could all just sit there and meet, but we could also have a camera on so people can kind of call in. But then I guess Wi-Fi might be a problem, isn't it? Or internet.
There it's not. We've got a mast on the roof of the building.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
working.
really? Is it? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, David, you're going to be with us for this whole time. I'm going to leave you.
I would certainly miss it if I wasn't.
It wouldn't be the same. No, that won't happen.
That's great. So yeah, we'll have to organize that. Well, we'll go. I'll be in. Definitely next Friday. I'll definitely be in next Friday. So if you want to come in already and just have a look, because the induction is next Thursday. So, you know, then I feel it's official and I can actually start doing things. So yeah, if you want to pop in on Friday afternoon, or I think I'll probably spend that weekend then. Yeah, and if anybody wants to help, come, you know, kind of put rubbish in black bin bags and have a little hoover and have just a little think about, you know, what we could do in there. I've got a red sofa in Martin's old office that we can bring in. So we'll have a sofa. I'm thinking of plants or something. I've got lots of plants. Don't know. So we can just think maybe, yeah. And then who would like a desk? Who would like to have a corner to paint and draw? Or what else do we need? So yeah, be lovely. Great. Does anybody else want to say anything else about Artist Network? So have we killed the subject?
Definitely not killed the subject, but it's a good subject still. But we need to decide on a subject for the next one.
No, we haven't we? So next one. So what's the date next time? So the first. So it's the 8th of September. So we have
Has everyone done their Artist Network one? Has Sarah Pennington done hers?
No, Sarah, and has Lisa done one? I don't think Lisa has either. Because I thought we'd be okay today. I didn't think it would just be me.
It was good because you don't usually talk as much, and it's always interesting to hear what you say. So, I mean, it was wonderful. So, thank you, Marianne.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, it's fine. It's just, yeah. I don't usually have time to prepare anything. That's it.
Normally step back for everyone else. So I agree with Michelle. It was nice for you to have the stage for once.
Thank you. Yes, so I don't know, next time, I think we should think maybe of something else, but it feels almost, because not everybody's here. What shall we do?
Come up with 3 ideas and then put it to the group, or
Good
2
idea.
ideas.
I like that a lot. Yes, that's good.
No, we just have to think of them.
I know.
I was going to say perhaps a memorable photograph or something that you want to share with everybody and talk about it.
Oh, Oh, I've got one
Okay.
straight away.
I like that. I like that a lot. But I'm just gonna make notes here. So ideas for next meeting.
But Marianne, could some of the ideas be what we'd like to use the new place for?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. I'd love that as well, because that's kind of constructive in a way. So what uses, what could we, yeah, absolutely.
That picture, you probably can't see it, but you know, you said a memorable photograph.
Oh yeah.
That's my mum and dad when they lived in America. They used to live at the foot of the Hollywood Hills. But if you look that way, it's my mum with a tennis racket. And if you look that way, it's my dad with a tennis racket. It's harder to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's ace.
Sort of like a playing card, isn't it? Sort of like,
Yeah.
like both sides.
Yeah, someone's had a mess about with photography. My dad always liked photography.
Well, that's the sort of thing I was thinking of, really. You know, just one photograph, and there's millions, isn't there, to choose from? But
Yeah.
just one that really, really gets you going, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you could talk about it.
Yeah.
They're
That's
both really
great.
good.
I like the way you say one, not 10 million networks. One. You know us. We have one book, we all come up with like 10. I think that's a really, really good point. I'm just thinking now, though, why don't we, for next time, use what could we use new space for? Because that'll be really helpful in feeding into what we actually use the space for. And then I think kind of a memorable photograph would be a good one when we kind of almost settled in there and have a proper event where we then can invite kind of other people to it again as well. So I think that'll be a good one to kind of maybe kick off the first, maybe either blended or kind of, you know, more official version again. Would that be okay, David?
Well, if I can get to it, yes, certainly it would be.
Well, we'll definitely do a, you know, at the very least we'll have a blended one where we all sit around and still have online, or we do it for another online.
Well, we'll have to have an online corner for David.
Yeah.
You know, that is purely David's chair and David's corner, even though he's on film rather than.
Put out David. Yeah, it'd be good to get some printouts of this.
Yeah.
You know, we came up with those 3 sheets in that network meeting.
Yeah.
Of what makes a good network and all of that. It'd be good to get those printed out and put on the wall.
Absolutely. That's what actually, when I spoke to Roger about this event, and he's really keen on a map, on printing something out, ideally either a map, of that, you mean that Miro board that we used, or as well kind of almost look at, for example, where all the members are from, you know, and then kind of almost ask every member as well for a little sentence or something, and then print, not necessarily print it out, but do a projection onto the wall. And then as well, he's quite keen that we might come up with a manifesto for the group, you know. And we could do that as a booklet as well, like printed, you know, with photographs of us and kind of just a little, you know, manifesto is a big word, but, you know, when we had that meeting as well, we kind of said quite a few things that are important to the group, or what makes the group kind of, what we think makes the group work. So that could actually be our, you know, kind of our nice manifesto. Manifesto sounds quite hard, but more like guiding principles, isn't it? And then on the back of this kind of manifesto kind of statement, guiding principles, we could have a map or something, or images. So yeah, we can talk about that. But I also think maybe a photograph that means a lot could form part of that. So if everybody actually picks a photo, and then that is the photo that we use in the publication or in the official event. And maybe, David, maybe you could come up to it'd be amazing for one of them.
Wow, it's a good reason,
isn't it? Isn't it? You might break through that barrier, you know, if we pull you.
Get me on the Trent and I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's strange though, isn't it? We've got to this point, and it's the first time that we haven't really had something that's come out of it completely for the next week, if you know what I mean. But I think because of the building, it's quite good, because now we can start on looking at that as a central part of who we are.
Yeah.
So yes.
What we could do is, it somehow is connected, because my conclusion to Artist Network was that often what they have in common as a kind of generator or a catalyst is a place or a space. So maybe we could kind of, in a way, it has arisen out of that as well. So what can we do as a network, as a loose collective of creative minds in the new space?
One of the things as well that's nice about that building is people dropping in and out at different times. So I think it'll be unusual that we'd all be in the building at the same time, because it's hard to get everyone. Like, these groups are lovely because we all are sat at home and it's tea time and you're chilling out, and it's easy to get everybody in the same place, easier. But if everybody was having to be there on a Wednesday at a specific time, it'd be quite hard, I think, and quite tiring. But if we just drop in whenever is easy for us to create work or whatever, that's going to be easier for people to make use of the space, I think.
And that's definitely the idea, Sarah. I think, the space is available for everybody in this group to just go in as and when they like and do whatever they like with it. I think definitely.
But I do hate the idea of the group breaking up, because that's would be what would happen. It might assume a different form, but it wouldn't be what we have. So whether we could say keep up a Zoom meeting, even if it was once a month,
Is losing the Zoom meeting an issue, a possibility then? Because I do really love the Zoom meeting.
Well, I do. I was just worried when you were saying about just people, dropping in, and that would mean the end of this. And I mean, it would be bad for me if it was the end of this, because it's been so precious.
Yeah.
No, I think, sorry, that might have come across wrong. What I'm definitely thinking of continuing the Zoom, on a Wednesday, because as Sarah says, I think it's easy. You don't have to travel anywhere. You just, 5 minutes before you log into your computer node, definitely keep the Zoom meetings. I think for me, it was more the other way around, that maybe once a month we can have a real person, a real meeting in person if people want to. So once a month, but the rest of the time keep online. And then the rest of the week, basically, and the weekend, people can do with the space whatever they want to. That's what I thought. So if you look at, the week, so basically that space is physically available for everybody to use. We'll keep our Zoom meetings at 5:30 on a Wednesday, and maybe once a month. And it doesn't even have to be on a Wednesday to once a month. We could do that on a different day and keep the Zoom meetings on a Wednesday and just have a real drop in. It could be a Saturday or something, if any, for people who work. Yeah, we can talk about that, whatever people think is best. It could be a Friday evening to kind of create that kind of salon feel, or 5:30. I don't know. Anything. I think that's something to just think about. But I'm glad we talked about that, because no, definitely let's keep this, because we're coming into winter again anyway, and I think it's really nice to have this.
And especially if the COVID rates are going up, some of us might end up isolating and stuff. And it's really nice to know that you can turn on your computer.
Yeah,
I agree, totally agree. So
I was so chuffed tonight. I thought, brilliant, lockdown still lives, because it's perfect timing.
Yeah, good. That's good. Well, that's definitely cleared that up. So I think maybe we'll think about whether a monthly in-person meeting, when that could take place. And again, it doesn't, we can expand that. It doesn't just have to be it doesn't have to be kind of show and tell, isn't it? If we do it on a different day, we could say on a Friday, like Lockdown Still Lives hosts, and then we do a salon. Sorry, I've always wanted to do this, I have to say. And you all have to bring your brilliant artwork, and you all have to kind of probably actually do some live action kind of art. And we bring in some crazy academics, and I don't know, just throw them all together and see what happens.
I think it's worth also thinking about a Christmas party.
Yeah.
I know that Julia and is always talking about dressing up and the wonderful parties they had, and it might be that we could have something where we all became as an artist of some form, or musician, or an actor, or a favorite character, even in a book, so that we could work on a bit of costume to appear around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Do you know what in the actual Shireathon there will be now? In one of the rooms, there's there's the what's the couple, the
McGuire's?
Yeah, so they're not going in as a duo. She's going in as a single. She's going in with a load of dancers, and they're taking a costume maker in with them. So they've got a unit, and there's a costume maker, and then in another unit, there's a lady called. There was loads of other amazing people, but her work really jumped out at me. This girl called Esther, who was at the Avenues, I think, and she's an amazing painter. But I know she's been teaching painting classes, and then obviously there's Jo and Tamar who'd be doing doorstep dances. So there's a lot of reasons to pop in and go and watch a show, or watch something that's going to entertain you. And if you're sort of part of the Lockdown Still Lives group, that's almost your passport into the building, because there's like, for some people, there's I know Marianne's like but I think
no, why did you think that? I'm not.
Because I said it and thought, oh, that sounds a little bit contrived.
No. Sorry, face wrong.
But some of these things are really exciting to be part of, and I think if we can just pop in and access them, because us being in there, I mean, I'm obviously in there. I'm going to get that studio space up on the top floor. I've decided to get that because it's got this amazing view, and I just think, oh, if I don't, it's well ventilated, which is important for me. But then I can pop down and feel like I've got two sides to the work as well. So
Can you give me the actual address of this building? Because I know you talk about it. I haven't a clue where it is.
do you know what the old the building originally was called? Bladen's. It was a department store years ago next to Debenhams on the right hand side. I don't know if you remember that, Michelle.
Shireathon, it's oh sorry, hold on. No, Sarah, I'm really sorry if that was really, I think I was looking for a document, because I better make notes of all of the things that you're saying. So I probably just looked a bit like I was just probably, looking for something. So it wasn't at all. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I thought about it. I can't believe how it's come together in a way.
I know. I think Annie's mostly responsible for that,
I know, it's incredible.
His enthusiasm's got people in there, and
yeah,
he's almost sort of selected people as well. It feels like quite well. I mean, it's really nice that the group of people that are in there are just really nice people as well.
Yeah.
They're all really proactive people who are really making stuff happen, and nearly all the units are full.
I know, and I think this is why because I saw, I mean, you all met on Mondays, and we weren't there, but it made me think that, we have to do something with this space, and I want people to be in there. So I think this is why I think for me it's quite important. I do feel a bit responsible. I don't want our space to be kind of like empty and not used. So I kind of hope that really comes, and I'll obviously, if we can all let everybody else know, like Julia and Roger and everybody who isn't here today, that everybody's really, really welcome to be in there and make something of the space, because the whole building is really, it feels quite vibrant, and I've seen how Anna Beans transformed her space, and everybody's really making such an effort with their spaces. So and obviously so I think we should think about what we can do with the space. So, and maybe our thing is kind of that hosting and bringing together, and that salon idea, where we all just drop in, because it's not just one of us, isn't it, that kind of turns it into our abode. It's kind of all of us together. So
and
I know, Jill, are you still thinking of coming in with Critical Fish? Because it'll be lovely. Really, really very much would love to have you. in there. Oh, can't hear
Working.
you.
I can imagine coming in and working. I'm not sure whether fish would have an official place, but I could imagine coming in and doing my own work or some fish work, or I mean, to be honest, I think it's quite fluid really between the different groups. We're in similar groups, aren't we? And but yes, yeah, I mean, Lauren and I could have meetings there, I guess. So I could, yeah, not a good answer, sorry Marianne. I could imagine working there. I don't know the difference between my different sorts of work anyway. Sometimes they all mold into each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Yeah,
no, it's lovely to have. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be here on that first one, the 22nd. So I think we're away that week, but certainly would be able to come before and help sort out a bit, and then try and get in there and do some bits of work there. It's nice to go somewhere to work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be great. Yeah. Good. And because I still have some of your things, isn't it, from the other exhibition? Because Michelle, I still have I forgot what the name is of that thing. That's here, actually, it's in the house, so it's safe. And I still have your books, Jill, isn't it? So yeah.
Are they at Barney's got them, hasn't he? Is that right?
Barney's got everything apart from Michelle's, that 3 thing, which is here in my hallway. Everything's in Shirethorn already. So yeah, if anybody pops in.
Your little robot ended up on my desk, Jill. So you brought it there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it ended up, somebody thought it was mine and put it on my desk.
I put it there.
On my desk.
I thought it was yours.
There's just a thing at Humber Street. I think there's coming up a couple of films about collectives in Hull. I think one is a collective of maybe sex workers or for sex workers' rights, and the other might be a collective of black artists in Hull, but just a couple of films about collectives, so that might be quite interesting to see. Just heard about that recently. Yeah.
Are they being shown online then? Is that how they're doing it, or are they doing
No,
it?
I think it's in one of the galleries.
Right. I was wondering if we could have projected those in the actual space.
Yeah.
Because there's a little space that you could turn into a cinema in there.
In where? Sorry,
in the Lockdown Still Live space. There's a little separate area that you could literally put a projection in, and it could be used for watching stuff. So
that'd be really nice, wouldn't it, to watch things and then discuss them.
Yeah.
This meeting's been surreal because all I do is get people's eyes or their smile. That's always I get.
Excellent. Okay.
I must get my internet working tomorrow. Let's hope I manage it.
Okay, good. So, yeah. So shall we have that kind of discussion around what we could do with the space as our next, or what everybody would like to do with the space, isn't it? So, yeah, we'll do that. Great.
I tell you the other thing that would be nice in that, if people want to collaborate on something, it would be a good space to do that in.
Yeah. That would be really good. And yeah, showing work and exhibiting, because there's lots of wall space. I need to double check whether we're allowed to draw things in or put things up. But Sarah, you might know a bit more. I seem to be getting kind of different. When we had our first meeting, isn't it, Jill? You were there. I thought Frank seemed very, very kind of easygoing about the space. But then I think I've heard in the meantime that we're not supposed to do it. So I'm not sure where we stand. But
we need it in an email, don't we?
Isn't it? That's what I think. Because I think ultimately, if they're tearing the building down, it seems silly to be precious, but I don't know.
But then there's things that they need to fix, like a room that's been called the pigeon room, because there's pigeons that are coming through the ceiling and it's made the room smell, which
Yeah.
is the gallery space. So that's like the only thing that needs fixing, to be honest, in the building, really.
Yeah.
But that's there's repairs that need doing, you know, as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out more. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Is there anything else by anybody? Any other business?
Hope, Sarah, that you're negative tomorrow or whenever you get your results.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
Oh yeah, we'll all be crossing our fingers for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for listening and contributing, and yeah, exciting times ahead, and fingers crossed we all stay safe. And David as well, I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, so do
Yeah.
I.
Okay.
I can do without this.
All right then.
Oh.
Oh, David.
Bye.
Goodbye.
everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.